Any additional charges that the city has on your tax bills, obviously, we always put on the trash and recycling fees for the residential properties in the city. That is going to remain the same as it was last year at $161 for the entire year, roughly $13 a month to have your trash and recycling picked up. The one caveat with that is that the council's agreed to do a second bulk dumpster pickup in the city for 2019. And so probably one in the spring, we're thinking, and then one again in the fall. But yet that fee that you'll pay on your tax bill will remain the same. What this ultimately means, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up here because I know you have a really long agenda tonight, is that overall, most people will see a very similar tax bill as last year. Most of you, if your assessed valuations didn't change on your homes, will actually see a decrease. It's not going to be hundreds of dollars, but it will be a little bit less than what you saw last year. So what the resolution before the council tonight is to adopt the budgets that we've been working on, to levy the $3,067,601 in taxes, and levy for the tax incremental districts.
All right.
And that would be it.
Thank you, Kim. Does anybody have any questions for Treasurer Manley? Okay. Yeah, so this was quite a long process, many months for staff and council. So I'd like to thank everyone that took the time out of their busy lives to get this done. So thank you. With that being said, I'd entertain a motion to approve this resolution 2418.
Motion to approve resolution 2418.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll amend that as 2518.
Oh, wait.
That's what I have in the packet.
2418 is for the first one.
Oh, the first one? Okay.
20.
I'm a page off. I'm sorry. There we go. Let's do 2418. I'll agree.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Pat, if you could take a roll.
Clark? Aye. Millar?
Aye.
Tylen?
Aye.
Traxler?
Aye. All right. Thank you. Next up, we have Resolution 20-18, a resolution for the City of Columbus Public Sewer Utility budget adoption. Kim, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that. It's all a part of the same process we went through with the regular budget. This is just for the public sewer utility. So unless there's any questions or concerns, entertain any motions.
Motion to approve resolution 2518.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Pat, if you could take a roll call, please.
Millar?
Aye.
Hello.
Oh.
Tylen?
Aye.
Traxler?
Aye.
Clark?
All right.
Unanimous.
All right, so next up I have number 3, consider and take action to formalize a proposal for the city to act as a conduit for a charitable donation to the Columbus Fall River Food Pantry. We talked about this at our last meeting. There is a sizable donation made to the Columbus, Wisconsin Food Pantry, and we're going to, keep the funds in a line specifically for that donation and to create that food pantry. So any questions on this? Comments? No? All right. All right, so entertain a motion to act as the conduit to that donation.
I'll make a motion to act as a conduit to accept that donation for the Columbus Fall River Food Pantry on behalf of Russell and Peggy Fredericks.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Pat, if you could take a roll on that too.
Tylen?
Aye.
Traxler?
Aye.
Clark? Hendrickson?
Aye.
Millar?
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right. Next up, we have consider the award of the 2019 2020 City HVAC Service Contract with TAS Inc. First thing we would need to do is waive the requirement that the bid to be notarized, and the second thing we would need to do is award the contract for the services. Paul, can that be all done in one motion?
You can if you like. Separate motions is probably a little cleaner, but if you want to wrap it into one, that's fine.
Okay. Let's just do it in two motions. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this, on the HVAC services? All right. Let's go ahead and do the two motions then, whenever you're, if you'd like.
Motion to waive the requirement for a notarized bid.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second on that. Can I just do a voice on that? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Next thing up, we have award contract for HVAC services to the lowest bidder, TAS Heating and Cooling, for the years 2019-2020. Entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to award the contract server for HVAC services to TAS Heating for the years 2019 and 2020.
Okay. Motion and second, and that one, if you take a roll, Pat.
Let's see. Tylen,
Aye.
Traxler,
Aye.
Clark, Hendrickson,
Aye.
Millar,
No.
All right. Next up, I have number 5, consider award of 2019-2020 City Electrical Services Contract with SNS Electric. Again, this was discussed at our previous meetings. The lower bid was to SNS at the $65 an hour. Again, this would be another one where we would need to waive the requirement for the bid to be notarized. And then the second, we would need to award a contract for electrical services to SNS. We'll do that in two motions.
I'll make a motion to waive the requirement that this bid have to be notarized.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. And then number 2, award the contract for electrical services. Entertain any motions when you're ready.
Make a motion to award the contract for electrical services to SNS Electric for the years 2019 and 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. And Pat, please take the roll call.
Traxler,
Aye.
Clark, Hendrickson,
Aye.
Millar,
No.
and Tylen.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, consider the award of the 2019-2020 City Plumbing Services Contract with Wright Plumbing. Wright Plumbing was the lowest responsible bidder, $88 an hour. Entertain any motions you have on that one. No, not for that one. No.
Motion to approve the, or to award the contract for plumbing services to,
Right Plumbing.
yeah. Right.
I'll second.
All right. Motion and a second. Pat, please take the roll, please.
Traxler,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Millar,
Aye.
Tylen,
Aye.
unanimous.
Thank you. Next up, number 7, consider award of 2019-2020 City Cemetery Interment Contract with Meitner. Again, Meitner was the best qualified bidder. I believe they were the only bidder on this one. We talked about this last meeting. The rates were $550 per burial and $285 for cremation. And entertain any motions on that. we do not need to waive the notarization.
I'll make a motion to award the contract for interment services at Hillside Cemetery to Meitner's Land Service for 2019-2020.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Pat, please take the roll.
Clark.
Aye.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Millar.
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Next up, consider award of the 2019-2020 City Tree Care Services Contract with K&B Tree and Lawn Care, Inc. Again, they were the lowest responsible bidder, and as discussed at the last meeting. Entertain any motions you have on that as well.
I'll make a motion to award the contract for tree services to the lowest responsible bidder, K&B Tree and Lawn Care, for the years 2019 and 2020.
Second.
Thank you. I got a motion and a second. Pat, please take the roll.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Millar.
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right. All right, next up, we have number 9, consider and take action on Class A alcohol license for Mowers Market IGA. This was for the Columbus Hometown Market, now going to be the Mowers IGA. They did, as discussed at our last meeting, they did provide in specific details on where the beverages were going to be stored, with walk-in cooler, and then the dimensions. Everything appears to be in order with the building inspector. So, if you guys have any questions or comments on that, let me know. Otherwise, entertain a motion you would have on that.
I just have a question, maybe for Paul. So they amended the application and just said see attached, and then there's the attached email. I would think that's sufficient, but
The question with the attached email is perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. The only question is whether or not you can understand what area they're defining.
okay.
And I was okay with it.
I am as well. I just wanted to ask the question. Thank you.
I think it's spelled out pretty well that it's located immediately adjacent to the cash registers in the front of the store in the most southern section of the building. Centered equally between the east and the west parts of the building. I mean, if anybody's been there, you can.
So I'd make
very
a
accurate.
motion.
Go ahead.
Sorry, to approve the Class A liquor and fermented malt beverage application to Mowers Market IGA.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Pat, please take the roll on that one too.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Millar.
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Clark. Unanimous.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next up, consider and take action on final closeout change order for the 2018 City Street Project. We discussed this at the last committee of the whole meeting. Unless there's any questions, entertain a motion you would have. If you have any questions for Jason, he's here tonight too.
I'll make a motion to adopt the decrease in the change order presented by Rupert Wilkie.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Pat, please take the roll on that one.
Millar.
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Clark. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Next up, we have number 11, consider and take action on Resolution 22-18, a resolution to accept the donated utilities from Prom Family Foods. Again, this was discussed previously at the Committee of the Whole. We just need to formally accept those donation.
Motion to approve the utility dedication from Fromm Family Foods.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Can I do a voice on that, or do we need to? Yeah. Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. And next up, consider and take action on jurisdictional transfer agreement with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation on portions of State Highway 73. That's the portion that was recently upgraded last fall from Faith Drive to Heritage Way. We're just formally accepting that transfer of the roadway.
Make a motion to accept the jurisdictional transfer for State Highway 73 as presented in the packet.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor on that one, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you very much. Next up, we have consider mayoral appointment to the Columbus Water and Light Commission. In our mailboxes today, it didn't quite make the packet. There was an application from Rose Schulze. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the last name right, but she has a pretty expansive background in utilities, and Mayor Tome felt she'd be a great fit for the utility.
Motion to approve the appointment of Rose Schulte to the Columbus Water and Light Commission.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next up, number 14, consider formal acceptance of chamber donation toward the cost of the holiday decorations for the downtown Columbus. They came in on a special meeting, offered to donate money to put wreaths downtown. We just need a motion to formally accept that donation. I believe it was up to $1,000.
Make a motion to accept the donation of $1,000 from the Chamber of Commerce for holiday decorations downtown.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. That one I'm going to have you take the roll, please.
Clark. Hendrickson.
Aye.
Millar.
Aye.
Tylen. Traxler.
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right. Next up, number 15, consider and discuss rescheduling the January 1st, 2019 City Council meeting. New Year's Day, I don't think anybody wants to come in for a City Council meeting, nor does staff, so we'll need to take a look at the calendar and decide what date works best. Luckily, January has 5 Tuesdays. I would recommend maybe spacing them out. Maybe end up moving both of them, potentially, to the 8th and the 22nd, or we can move the one of the first week, back a day or two, and keep this regular one on 15th. I mean, does that have any impact on what you guys might need to do internally?
It shouldn't, no. The only point I'd make is we were talking about potentially the listening session for the 22nd, but we can try to work with that too. So
Yeah.
we talked about the 29th as well.
Yeah. Was the 29th the more preferred, or was it the 22nd?
22nd.
Okay. Well, we haven't really have you gotten enough feedback yet to make a decision on?
I've gotten two responses, two or three. So
Okay. All right, I'm open to other suggestions. I think the 22nd and the 29th were, the best dates available for the listening session and the library annex where we want to hold that listening session. So I don't want to mess with those dates. So if it works best, we can do something the first week of January and then stick with our regular one on the 15th. Maybe Thursday?
if I may. And,
Yeah, you may.
Last year, the first meeting in January fell on the 2nd, and we also adjusted, and I believe we met on the Thursday that week. But just throwing that out.
Okay. The only potential impact for Thursday I would see is maybe the cable commission, but we can look at that and adjust on that end. So, is everybody okay with Thursday the 3rd of January?
I might have to work the 50/50 route.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, we don't have a full body here tonight to get everyone's opinions, so it's kind of hard to make this decision. So let's just go with the 3rd, and we have enough time between now and then to just make sure we'll have a quorum. We can speak to Mayor Tome and Alder Reed just to see where we're at.
If there's a problem with the 3rd, we can bring it back to the 18th
Yeah.
meeting to adjust.
Yeah, we have time. All right, so we'll go with the 3rd and see what shakes out. Everybody okay with that? All right. Do we need a motion on that, Paul?
Yep.
Okay.
For now, sure.
Okay. So we need a motion to change the
Why not?
meeting to the Thursday, January 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right. You can do the 50-50 raffle from here, Jason. All right, next up, we have consider and take action on applications for operators licenses, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th of 2020. Didn't see anything in the packet. Did we have any? All right. Next up, consider and take action on claims in the amount of $210,974.08.
Motion to approve claims in the amount of $210,974.08.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and second. Pat, if you could take the roll on that.
Hendrickson.
Aye.
Millar.
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Clark. Unanimous.
All right. Finally, I have a report of city officers. The mayor did not pass anything along to me to share, so Patrick, you have the floor.
Okay. I'll just kind of follow up what you said after we approved the resolution for the budgets, just to say, to express my appreciation to city staff for their work on putting together the budget. It's a process that begins informally as soon as the year turns over, but formally really in June. So there's a lot of work into it, and of course I would need to single out the finance director, Kim Manley, for her work too. She is what kind of brings it all together for us. So certainly a job well done again. With that, I would just say upon the approvals tonight that residents could probably start seeing tax bills arrive towards the end of next week or possibly early the following week. Couple other just recognitions. I want to just note that a DPW employee, Mark Pekarsky, has retired, and after putting in 5+ years with the city, and certainly wish Mark the best. And also want to recognize JT Siskowski, whose last day with the city is this week. So JT came in and did a great job for us. So one last thing, and I know the mayor would have brought this up, and maybe you want to comment too, Andy, I don't know, but Friday's the holiday train, and the action is at the depot at 9:05, but there's activities leading up. I know the senior center's got the warm-up event at 6:30, so I'll encourage everyone who wants to come and see this annual event. It's something we all look forward to, and hope to see everybody there.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you said it all. All right, unless there's anything else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. We're going to take a brief break here. Not too long. Next up, we need to approve the agenda. I don't have any alterations. Yeah, we do have, yeah, it was amended, but I don't have any changes to the agenda unless you guys have anything. All right, seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Next up, citizen comments on agenda items. Is there anybody signed up back there? All right, nobody signed up. Anybody that didn't sign up want to speak? All right. Next up, I have board, committee, commission reports. We have library board for September 18th and October 16th. HLPC for November 13th, a special meeting. Police and Fire Commission September 24th and October 4th. And Planning Commission for September 20th. Any comments or questions on the reports? All right, seeing none. Thank you. Next up, I have Columbia County Health and Human Services Aging and Disability Resource Center, the 2019 MOU for a nutritional site at the Senior Center. Patrick's going to give you a quick overview of what this is.
Thanks, Andy. This is something we deal with about this time every year. It establishes the parameters for which the space in the senior center is utilized for the Columbia County Nutrition Site, the Meals on Wheels program. It goes back and forth with what the city allows for space and the activities that the nutrition site run by the county can and can't do. It also stipulates the amount that the county program will pay to use the space for the year. Had a conversation with Senior Center Director Kim Lang this morning, and she said that the changes, there are no changes from last year, which was satisfactory to both sides. So something that we need to push through to continue the program into 2019.
All right. Any questions for Patrick on this MOU? All right. If none, we'll move that forward to the December 18th meeting. Next up, we have the 2017 Library Report. And we have Cindy Fessmeyer here momentarily. She did provide a nice little document in our packet to review. There you go.
All right. So I see now that unfortunately Jesse isn't going to be able to put these up on the screen. I'm going to be talking about some statistics that I provided to the council members about the library's 2017 service statistics. I apologize for the massive delay, but our governing or umbrella agency, the Department of Public Instruction, went through massive staff changes and didn't approve our numbers until relatively recently. So thanks for bearing with me, and I'll probably see you pretty soon for 2018 stats. So the first sheet I'm going to talk about is this one. Hopefully y'all have this. This is just a quick brief at what 2017 looked like for us. Our number of visits, 62,000 or so. At the moment we have, or at the end of 2017, we had 4,362 registered borrowers. Our service population, according to DPI, is about 10,000 people. That's Columbus and then areas around us that do not have their own municipal library. So we have almost half of the folks in that area have library cards with us, which I'm pretty proud of. You've got circulation numbers, download numbers, and I apologize that y'all can't see these on the screen. I would like to call your attention mostly to things that are spelled out a little better on this sheet here. So this one spells out in greater detail some of the statistics that are on the previous sheet you looked at, namely programs, wireless internet uses, and program attendance. I'm sharing these stats with you specifically because awesome. Thank you, Jesse. sharing these with you specifically because this is exactly what we shared with Columbia County Finance Committee when the county librarians and the county library board went in front of the county committee to ask for a slight increase in our funding. And you have heard about that through the budgeting process. But it was these statistics specifically that we shared with them. So the libraries across the county are trying to present apples to apples statistics across the county. So the upper left-hand corner is library visits, items borrowed, online resources, things that I talked about briefly just a moment ago. Does anyone have questions about what any of those things are? Awesome. Okay, in the right-hand corner, and then the one below it, in the right-hand lower corner, are details about programs over the last 8 years or so. You can see the number of programs has grown dramatically since 2009. The adult programs are growing at a really massive rate for us, and that's got a lot to do with partnerships out in the community. So we are now the home of the Literacy Council and the Friends of the Library and the Redbud Players, and have a partnership with the Historical Society. And a lot of what they do comes in under our numbers because they come in under our umbrella. Additionally, though, we've gotten to know the community and to know what programs will attract people or not. So I feel like we've done a pretty fair assessment of what we should give people, and it's the stuff that they seem to come to. So you can see below that is the attendance then. The upper one was the pure number of programs that we put on. It grew from 2009 from 112 programs only for children in that year to 713 programs in 2017. The attendance accordingly is growing from just under 4,000 people in 2009 to over 10,000 people in 2017. And on both of those numbers, I kind of did the math, and the 2018 trajectory has us continuing the upward climb in that. So I feel like we've really found our niche here in Columbus, and that is doing things together with the community. Alternately, on the left-hand side in the lower corner, it's the wireless internet uses. So usually public libraries are being thought of as the place to come and get your tech if you don't have your tech at home. And that is definitely true, although we are starting to see a downward trend on the use of the desktop terminals, that we have 6 of them on the main floor of the library. They're still used every day and often full, but the uses are starting to go down. But the wireless uses, you can see, are going up correspondingly. So it's less of coming in to use the computer and more of bringing in whatever your device is that day to plug in, use the Wi-Fi. Many of you have probably heard me tell, but almost every day when I come in the morning before the library opens, there's at least one car sitting in the parking lot using our Wi-Fi, and that's why we run it 24/7, is so people can get that connection there if they can't get it out where they live. Does anyone have any questions about any of these statistics? That was 2017. Hopefully I'll be back to you not this late in 2019 to tell you about 2018. Excellent. And I'm just going to step back for a moment.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any more questions? Any questions for Cindy at all? All right, well, thank you, Cindy, and keep up the great work at the library.
Thanks, Andy.
Next up, I have number 9, review of consultants for the Columbus Roadmap 2050 project. I have, I believe, Matt and Cindy here to talk. I don't know who wants to.
Yeah, I'll just kick it off. And really, Matt's going to do the introduction of the firm that we're going to introduce you to today. But the thing I want to do is call attention to the citizens in the citizen engagement team. To recap for those watching from home, the citizen engagement team has volunteered their time to help the city of Columbus engage in a planning process looking 30 years down the road. It's called Columbus 2050. And city staff staff and elected officials thought it was important to have citizens involved in that process. So 3 of the 4 citizen volunteers are here today to see this through. So I would really love it if Liz and John and Ryan would stand up and just thank you for the time that you've put into this process, and it's barely begun. There's so much yet to come. And additionally, Susie Zeitlow from the charter school is involved in that. She just wasn't able to be here tonight. Now I'm going to step away, and Matt and Jason will take it away.
So I'd like to echo what Cindy had to say. Thank you to John and Ryan and Susie and Liz for their time and effort. We put an RFP out, and November 9th was the deadline, and we ended up getting 6 proposals, and we ended up interviewing 5 consultants, and I was blown away with the response because, well, to be honest, we had a first round and we didn't get as many responses as we wanted, so we delayed it and put it out for another month, and ended up getting a better result the second time around. And as a result of that, and result of the effort that we went through in the interviews and in the review of all the proposals, we have a preferred consultant that we would like to introduce you to. So Jason Valerius is here from MSA tonight to give you an overview of their proposal that the citizen engagement team reviewed earlier this month. So Jason, please take it away.
All right, thank you. So I've got just 2 slides up there, and they are this handout, which is the same thing. That's the same handout that we used at the interview last week. So again, my name is Jason Valerius. I'm with MSA Professional Services. I'm a planner, like Matt, and I am the project manager for our team. MSA is a multidisciplinary firm that does work all over the state and all over the region, and we've got quite a variety of disciplines among us, including quite a few civil engineers, but also a number of planners and architects and community funding and finance specialists. And those are really the 3 key disciplines that are going to come to bear on this project. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to work on this with you. Everything that you're doing in this project is stuff that we do, but to be frank, we've not seen it combined in this particular way. And we appreciate, as we told the engagement team, we genuinely appreciate the approach that you've taken to say that that the community engagement process is going to be at the heart of it, and more importantly, that the community is going to lead that. So as a planner who's been doing comprehensive plans and all manner of community engagement for about 15 years, that's one of the hardest parts of our job, to genuinely and effectively communicate with, reach out to, and involve members of the community. So what I see that you've done is you've identified members of the community to lead that process, and I think that's going to translate to success on this. So what you see here, our little graphic with the arrows coming in, the community vision is at the heart of this, figuring out, looking ahead 30 years, what do we want to be as a community, where do we want to end up 30 years from now. And we like that time frame because it's far enough out that people are going to actually dream initially and set aside questions of, well, how much is it going to cost? They're going to be thinking about their kids in the community and thinking about what they really want. But by the end, we do need to come back around to fiscal realities and a budgeting effort. And so what we'll be doing then along the way, too, is looking at your facilities. And it's all your core key facilities that we'll be looking at and talking about the programming that you run right now. Doing some evaluation of various aspects of your fiscal processes and conditions right now, your bonding, your use of TIF, your use of impact fees, and then considering that as we come around to the back end and ask, all right, we have these dreams, how do we translate them into changes in the future, and then ultimately what is the order of priority, and how do we fit the pieces together to make the various investments in kind of the physical components of the community fit and work to support that. So what you should end up with by about the middle of 2019, coordinated with progress on the comprehensive plan, is a vision for what you're trying to achieve with your buildings and with your programs. some guidance on where that stuff is going to land in terms of the physical buildings. So is there going to be some renewed investment here in your civic core? And if so, what does that look like? Which of the pieces that stay here? Is it all of them? Do any move? And we'll put some cost estimates to that so that we can also figure out how do you make it work? How do you make the numbers work to achieve that? So we could get into the nitty gritty. If you turn this thing over to the back side, you'll see that's kind of our step-by-step process for how this thing is going to roll over the next 6-7 months. And I don't need to go into all that detail. One of the questions I got during the interview that we got was, is that schedule achievable? We said, it's aggressive, but it is, and the challenge is going to be getting all the public engagement meetings, the outreach, the going out and visiting with different committees and community groups, getting that scheduled, getting on people's agendas is a challenge. And so it's conceivable because you've got your local players at the table to help make that happen, but perhaps that ends up leading to a little delay depending on how effectively that happens. To that end, though, we're ready to go. We want to get a meeting scheduled with the engagement team as soon as possible, definitely this month, to collaboratively figure out what the process is going to be, what the schedule is going to be. So we appreciate the nod and are very excited to have the opportunity to work with you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Jason on this? Or Cindy? This is really exciting. I'd also like to thank Liz, John, Ryan, and Susie for their efforts on the engagement team, Mayor Tome, Cindy Fessmeyer, and anybody else I'm forgetting. I'm sorry, but Matt, thank you. Sorry, Matt. I knew there was someone. And Patrick. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. Very exciting. Okay. One moment. All right, next up we have number 10, review and consider task order for utility design work for the Highway 89 project. I have Jason Letha here tonight to talk to us about this.
If you guys find one more Jason, it's going to get confusing.
Yep.
So the task order before you tonight is for a continuation of a project that we've been working on. We've been, it looks like back in 2016, we had a task order to prepare some field work and some initial planning, 30% plan creation for the State Highway 89 project, which is the next roadway project that we have for the connecting highway in the city of Columbus. Those of you who are aware, it's from Park Avenue all the way down to Avalon Road. That project commenced back in 16 with some work. 30% plans were developed. The DOT has been working on their proportion of the roadway design, and they've had some public informational meetings. We're kind of at the point now where they have the transportation plan together. They're getting some of their other documents together, and they need to prepare what they call 60% plans or design plans. So we need to push that sewer design that we've started to get us the 30% forward to 60%. The schedule that they have on that 60% design is they're going to need those plans, I believe in March or late February, I think is what they had indicated to us. With that being said, that will trigger their review out to utilities and other agencies, and so they need to kind of get it in that form so they can keep the process moving. Simultaneously, the city's working on some of their documents for real estate acquisition and things like that, so this is all moving forward. Now, the project is obviously still a few years out, but, with a project this size, obviously, we're wanting to make sure that we're staying ahead and getting this work done. So they came to the city, asked to kind of advance the plans along. We put together this task order. We did also include the phase from 60 to 90%. Which they're looking for in the fall of 2019. So rather than come back for another task order to advance at 30% more, we thought we would just kind of roll it together into one task order. So that's what we're here proposing tonight. is all of the design work for that. There is a map associated with the task order. Now, I did want to clarify that this does show kind of the project area from Park Street to Avalon and the sewer involved in this redesign. As part of that, I do want to note that there is a block or two of that was previously done in 2012. So I just circled the whole area just to be, I guess, more of a higher level overview of where the sewer is in this project, but just note that some of this was replaced in 12, and I know that came up at the public informational meeting, so I just wanted to clarify that. But even on that new section, we still have to replace the laterals, so again, that's part of the design project. The other component to this task order that I did bring forward, and this was kind of the same as when we did James Street, is there's just some general DOT coordinations. They're requiring the engineers to be at meetings. They're coordinating information, stormwater records, as-built information, things that we may have on our in our files. And so there was kind of a component of that just for DOT coordination. And if you look at the fee that I'm proposing in this task order, we did set aside a portion of that to get us through, hence the final development of the plans. I did talk to Kim about separating that. I know everybody always usually asks to keep the utilities portion separate from the general design portion, so we'll invoice that independently so it doesn't get charged to the wrong account as well. So that kind of basically gets us up to about the 90% development. There will be a little bit moving forward, but that should come later in 2020 or 2021. It'll be a pretty small amount to take the plans from 90% to a plan set that the DOT can let or get bid results on. So that's what we're here proposing tonight. I think at this point we are kind of ready to roll on this and get things turned around, but we definitely needed to come in and present this and see if you guys had any questions.
Thank you, Jason. And this is still on track for 2022, correct?
Yes, it was originally 2022. The DOT had, and there was some confusion on this, they had originally talked about it, what they call an advanceable date to 2021, but now they said that it is actually going to be 2022 again, just based on their budgeting cycle and looking forward at their projects. So again, we're back to 2022. So again, we're a little ahead of the game here on schedule, but they certainly want to keep the project going, so they are ready when we get to that date.
Right, and Jason has it broken down as far as the estimate of the compensation. The 60 and 90% comes out to $25,850. And then the city support and coordination is $9,344 for a total of $35,194. I did speak with Mayor Tome about this. It sounded like he had a chance to talk to you at the most recent DT meeting. He didn't have any concerns about this at all. So if everyone's okay with this, we can move it forward to the next regular meeting.
Yeah, Jason's right. There is a sister task order to this, if you will, that does contain the design component for the water facilities as well, and we have been to the commission with that, and they've approved that advancement from 30 to 90% as well for 2019. So, if you have any questions about that, I certainly could answer that or as well. So,
all right. Any questions for Jason? Nothing else from other Jason?
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. We'll move that forward. All right. Next up, I have presentation by Rupert Milkey on efforts to coordinate industrial discharges to the wastewater treatment plant. And fellow Rupert Milkey staff member Dave Arnett is here.
Going to talk about phosphorus tonight. We're going to talk about industrial wastewater instead. So this is a topic that I've been talking to staff about for a couple of years, and we think it's the time is right for the city to consider an industrial wastewater program. I'm here tonight just to give a general overview of this and to kind of share what's going on, what we're thinking in conjunction with John Namer. So why does Columbus need an industrial wastewater program? Well, you have a very strong industrial base for your workforce, and that's a positive thing, of course. Along with that comes a little bit of risk when these industrial facilities discharge higher strength waste to the collection system and it reaches the treatment works. We want to make sure that those assets are protected, and you've been okay to this point. But when you have industries that deal with plating and metal finishing and painting, such as American Packaging and Enerpac and Roberts, Lyco to a lesser extent, and even some industries in Fall River that are tributary to your wastewater system, EK Machine and Robbins Manufacturing. When you have those types of facilities, if something goes wrong, it can impact the treatment works. So by having a formal industrial program in place, the probability goes down that bad things happen. The other big thing about this is it would provide a uniform set of standards for industry. So as an example, when Enerpac expanded a few years ago, the city didn't have a program ready to go and all set. And we worked through that and we're fine. But with this program in place, the city would have basically a uniform set of standards that we could tell to a new or expanding industry, these are your local limits, this is your permitting program, these are the requirements by the city for the collection system and the treatment facility, and that would all be kind of rolled out and ready for them. So it can be a tool to prepare the city for economic development, which is critical. So the components of the program, I'll cover those real quickly here. There's three components. The first component is establishing local limits. So that is, these are limits that would be uniformly brought to the industrial facilities. You don't have one set of limits for one industry and another set of limits for another industry. Everything has to be defensible, and this local limits study would provide the science to defend that. It would result in some minor changes to your sanitary sewer use ordinance. Your sewer use ordinance is pretty strong already, so I'm not too concerned about that, but there might be some minor tweaks. And lastly, it would result in some individual permits to the types of facilities I mentioned before, American Packaging, Enerpac, Roberts, Lyco, and maybe even those two in Fall River. So these individual permits would have the sampling protocol spelled out, what they are allowed to discharge to the city spelled out, sample sharing techniques, that type of thing, access, where the sampling manhole is. You do a little bit of that right now, but with the amount of industry that you have, the program should be a little bit more formalized. So a good example for this is Ottery. Ottery has opened up maybe 2 years ago, and when they came to Columbus, we didn't have a program ready to go to give to them. We made an agreement, there was some back and forth, everything's going fairly well with that agreement, but with this industrial wastewater program, we could have the standards already ready for them at the start. And any new industry, it wouldn't be an agreement, it would be a permit. So this is a formalized way to streamline and protect the city's interests with regard to industrial discharges. Ottery has had a couple weeks ago some pretty high loading discharges to the sewer system. Everything's fine with the treatment plant and the collection system, but that just kind of underscores that there are risks associated with accepting high-strength waste and dealing with high-strength waste. And I've been kind of talking about this program and how it may look, how it may feel with John Namer over the last couple of years. And I don't know if there's anything you want to offer, John, at this point.
I think you're covering it very well.
Okay. So I'll turn it over for any questions at this time.
All right, so as far as what you would move forward with, you would look to create an ordinance that would after you would first do the study.
Yep.
Right. I'm assuming you would come with a task order.
Yeah,
for the
we're
study.
still kind of thinking about this, getting prepared for that, getting our ducks in a row. But yeah, this would probably result in a task order, and the first 3 steps would be local limits, sewer use ordinance changes, and then writing individual permits and meeting with these industries to explain and coordinate why we're doing this, that type of thing.
And would these permits have fees associated with them? I
don't think so. Again, it's more laying out the monitoring, who does what, who has access, their discharge concentrations.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for John? Kashi?
I know you had mentioned that everybody would have the same sort of standards applied to them across the board, even, and what I'm assuming is that it doesn't matter what type of facility you are. Do you think that that might be more of a deterrent to some of the providers of services that are already here? Like maybe one might produce more of a toxic load or something, or maybe one might produce more of a volume to your system. Are there going to be like penalties associated with it, or do you see this being possibly a deterrent to some of our people or companies in the area?
Yeah, I don't see it as a deterrent. That's a good question. That's something that we would look at very carefully. That's the last thing we want to do, is come up with these local limits and have that be a deterrent to economic development in the city. So we would keep that in mind for sure. We have a pretty good idea of who's all discharging and what their concentrations are from the monitoring that John has done the last 5, 6, 7 years.
All right. Any more questions for John? Okay. Oh, or Dave. Why did I say John? I'm sorry. Oh, because John was over here. Okay.
As long as you keep asking.
Does anybody have any questions for John now that
Keep
he's up?
asking.
Yeah.
It can offer some where we don't have to chase after some just upsets at the plant. We'll have some limits in place for these industries, and then we'll know what they're discharging, what products they might be putting down the drain, how it's going to impact the plant. If we find some upsets at the treatment plant, we know where to look, or instead of just chasing around, just trying to grab at straws and pointing fingers and things like that, it gives us some opportunities just to be consistent with the enforcement. So.
Okay. Thank you, John. Anything else for Dave? If I got all the names right, I don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we'll look forward to getting something further on that in the future here. All right. So next up, I have number 12. Presentation by Baker Tilly on proposal to provide city audit services beginning in 2019. I don't know, Patrick, if you had anything you wanted to start with?
I can, briefly. We talked about this, well, we've talked about this over time, the process for going out for bids for auditing services, and we've reviewed things at ad hoc, and then last week at the council special meeting, talked about it further. There was, at that time, just interest in hearing from the two firms that drew the most interest out of the bid. So per your direction, we invited those two firms here, and we got Baker Tilly listed first because B comes before C in the alphabet. So,
All right, well, that makes sense.
I'm glad you clarified that. Thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to present to you. My name's Amanda Blomberg. I am a firm director at Baker Tilly, and I am responsible for reviewing and overseeing the city's audit as a whole. Jody?
I'm Jody Dobson. I'm a partner with our firm as well. And my role really for your city audit and the involvement is to focus on the enterprise funds, so the wastewater utility. Really appreciated getting to listen to the things that are going on there, as well as the stormwater functions and some of those kind of things, and integrating when the utility information comes in.
All right, I handed out just a handout that has a little bit more information about us. We've worked with you for a number of years. Some of us, or some of you know us pretty well, some of you may not. So I'm just going to focus on a few highlights that I think are important. Baker Tilly got its start around this area here, and we've been providing public sector services specifically to governments in this area for the last 50 plus years. And so we have obviously a specialization in the public sector industry. We have over 200 professionals that are dedicated to the public sector industry, with a good share of them located right down the road in our Madison office. And that is the office that we serve your audit out of. We devote a number of resources to the public sector industry on a regular basis. We participate in industry organizations from a national level at the AICPA down to the local levels as well. We participate in a number of speaking and training events, again, from national down to local levels, whether it's the Government Finance Officers Association meetings that are done nationally, AICPA training events, on down to, the local Wisconsin Clerks and Treasurers Institutes. So we have a process, a specialized process when we complete audits. We we design templates and tools that are specific to the public sector, where we're not, using tools that are a generic type. And we provide complimentary webinars to clients and non-clients as well as contribute to articles and newsletters that go out to our distribution list. We wanted to spend a few minutes tonight talking about what we, think the city values from the service that we've provided in the past. And a big part of that is just, providing an effective and efficient audit. We know that time is a limited resource for your staff. Audits are very time consuming for your staff and very demanding for them. So our goal is to conduct the audit in the most efficient way possible. That is, so some of the things that we try to ensure is that we're, requesting only the things that we need. And this is based on, what we already know about the city, what we've learned in previous years and our experience, based on the information that we've been privy to in the past. We have a lot of documentation, historical information in our files. The good thing that we can what we can accomplish with that information is only needing to simply update that information on an annual basis. So again, we're not building our documentation from the ground up. We're able to just find out what's different, what do we need to know this year. As some of you may know, the city has the city's accounting software is the Cassell software purchased from the Civic Audit Systems. That Civic Systems is a subsidiary of Baker Tilly, and we work closely with those with that entity in providing support to the city.
And so what we're able to do is obtain information from the accounting system, and which really reduces the burden on the city staff. We're able to generate reports, get transactional details from that system, and using a software that was developed in-house by by people in the public sector. So what we'd like to, just talk about is how, we use these tools to help drive an efficient audit. We use these tools and templates that have been specialized for the public sector as well, to ensure that we're doing, the most effective audit with the time that both, the city staff have and that we have for you as well. So Jody's going to talk a little bit about staffing and teams.
Thank you. So one of the other things that we really wanted to highlight, both with the handout in front of you and in speaking to you tonight, is about the team that we bring to your audit each year. So we really pride ourselves at Baker Tilly on having, in general, low staff turnover. And we've seen that definitely in our public sector team that serves the local governments, that we have generally low staff turnover. So what that means to you and your staff is that there's some continuity, that they see some familiar faces, and as Amanda said, we're able to leverage what we've learned in the past to make the audit a more efficient process. At the same time, there are new faces involved. So if I look back over the number of years that we've worked with the city, there have been at least 5 different partners or directors involved in your audit. And that's due to just normal transitions that happen. I've been with the firm for 20 years, but I've only worked on your audit for roughly 5 years, when I was able to take over from one of our partners that retired. So at that point, I came in and I brought a fresh perspective, a different way of looking at things, brought with the background from some of the other clients that I've worked with. I work with roughly 50 different governmental enterprise funds on an annual basis throughout Wisconsin as well as across the country. And each of the individuals on your team brings that kind of experience, that they're working with a number of different entities similar to you with similar needs, similar circumstances, and they can bring that information in, as well as they work with the different team members on our team. So, for example, the manager that works on your job also works with other partners. So she may come in and say, oh, Jody, why don't we look at something this way, because that's how a different partner suggested we look at it. So we're always bringing that fresh perspective to you. And so we're trying to balance both of those needs, the continuity that brings efficiency and yet a fresh perspective along the way. And I think what that really allows us to do is focus each year's audit on the key items that have changed or what are the risks for that year, whether it be new accounting pronouncements, new transactions, or funds that you may have. And at the same time, it allows your staff to focus on their work while they're getting the audit done and not having to train us on those things each year. So with that, we really did want to thank you for taking the time, and I know you may have some questions for us that we'd be happy to answer as well.
All right. Thank you, guys. Any questions? Comments? Nobody? Okay.
All right.
We're good?
All right. Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate you coming in. So next up, I would have a presentation by Clifton, Larson, and Allen on the proposal to provide the city's audit services beginning in 2019.
I brought presents too.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to start by thanking you as well for having Clifton, Larson, Allen in, and myself, Jake Linnell, here to give you just a little bit of background on the firm as well as our practice and answer any questions you have as well. I did want to do a leave behind here with just very high level summary of some of the thoughts that I thought would be most important related to your evaluation of our proposal. So all of this information, none of it is new. We did capture that within our RFP, but I just thought as we're kind of talking through and trying to evaluate differences and things that you may want to highlight, just thought I'd point out a few things. So just a little bit of quick background on myself. I work out of our Middleton and our Milwaukee office, so I have kind of dual residency there, as well as does our audit team, the team that be coming to service you. So again, kind of that local presence. We're within an hour's drive, whichever office we're coming from, which is great. We can be here for these types of meetings on very short notice as well. Wanted to highlight a little bit of information on the firm as a whole before we got into your specific team. Just a little bit of background on CLA. The government practice within CLA is very much a focused segment of our group. We do over 2,000 municipalities across the country and over 200 within Wisconsin. So the group that you have coming to your audit is very familiar with the nuances that affect Wisconsin municipalities, but also has that broader exposure to the types of things and best practices that are being implemented across the country. So again, a very useful thing as you're evaluating new processes, new changes, and new funding strategies to have those different perspectives available to you. Just a little bit of background on our industry expertise and how we bring that as value to the city. We publish periodic articles and webinars and make those available to all of your staff as well as governance to participate in those things. We host roundtables to bring communities together to help talk about some of the topics that they're wrestling with and share ideas across the table with one another. We speak at a number of the local associations, WGFOA, Clerks Treasurers Association, those types of things. So we are very involved in the industry as well. Something of particular importance here, our exposure to federal grant compliance, what's commonly referred to as the single audit. Columbus doesn't currently have a federal or state single audit, but there's always the potential. And give you a couple of examples. One would be with Clean Water Fund loans. A lot of times that money's coming through the state, but can also partner up with federal funds, which then triggers a federal single audit, or flood mitigation, FEMA money, those types of things where it may not be a federal grant that you're actually chasing after, but really something that you need and becomes a requirement in a relatively quick time. It's times like those where it's helpful to have an organization that we do more single audits in the country than any other organization nationally. So that's helpful in those types of situations because we can help you prepare for the additional requirements and the different things that you may need to be prepared for. Or if you're just considering going into additional grant programs and wanting to understand what are the strings that are attached with those dollars and how do you move forward with those types of things. So again, another useful industry experience that I think we can bring to the table. The other item I wanted to mention just in relation to our industry and our exposure and our commitment to the city relates to the TIFs and the utilities. I know you've got the two TIFs that you're currently issuing standalone compilation reports and will need periodic audits for, as well as the sewer utility and the water and light that has the separate audit firm. All of those things are things that we're very familiar with as having such a significant presence in Wisconsin already. So really have no issues in terms of evaluating what needs to be done to be able to make our marks as we move forward through those items. So all of that to really just leave you with the thought that the team that we have assembled for you is really designed to provide you the most value. When you think about the potential for change. We always think about change as being a little bit scary. Part of when we assemble this team is eliminating that fear from the equation, because the folks that you have on the handout, myself, Shannon Small, your director, and Mike Anderson, your senior, all have familiarity with the process of transitioning a new engagement. So we know what needs to be done to be able to get up to speed, to get to know you in the way that we need to know you, to be able to evaluate the risks, to be able to communicate how to respond to those risks. And we can bring that to the table to help alleviate some of that fear, some of that burden. We see transition as our responsibility in terms of committing to that relationship and getting to know you, and the things that are most significantly on your mind as well. With that, I think I just wanted to wrap with an emphasis in our process related to communication. We talked about selecting that team in a way to really tailor it to your engagement and be able to tailor our processes and procedures. But that can't all be done in a box. We need to communicate and talk through what are the things that keep you awake at night, what are the things that we can help with. And it's really not just at the start of the audit or the end of the audit or during the audit. It's really throughout the year. What we find is when we have that perpetual communication, it gives us a chance to talk through some of the things that come up that may not be directly related to the audit, but there's still a sounding board and a way to talk through those things, and perhaps a way we can help. And that's actually the back of your handout here. There's just some of those kind of additional type services that may come up as you evaluate moving forward and as you continue to revise your processes and procedures. So long-term strategic planning, capital budgeting, some of the topics that you talked about here tonight actually, very much in our wheelhouse in terms of being able to help provide some additional perspective and assistance when needed. So we really see the audit as a way for us to work together to move through the process. Yes, an audit's required. State statutes say you got to get one. So you can check that off the box, but really we don't see it as a commodity that way. We see it as a way where we can impact our communities, add value by bringing those best practices, and continue to commit to the industry by participating. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Jake on his presentation? Okay. I guess my question then would be for Patrick. Regardless of who the council wants to move forward with and pick, we need to do that in short order, right? December 18th, we need to have that finalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, at our previous meetings, we're kind of split 50-50, and I still don't have two people here tonight to weigh in on where they're at. So I don't know if this is something that we just want to forward both firms to the regular meeting and that choice can be made at that point, or if you guys are comfortable making a decision tonight, it's up to you. But I would feel a lot better if Trina and Mayor Tome were here, but I'll see what Regan has to say.
Yeah, I think let's forward them both and we can have that more robust discussion, I think, at the council meeting and then just vote. I agree. I'd like all members to be here if at all possible, just knowing how split we were last time. This information has been very helpful. I'm so happy both of you were able to come and do a presentation. So we thank you very much. I think really the gist of it is, at least in my mind, is weighing the efficiency that I think might exist with the current provider who's done a great job with the desire for maybe a fresh perspective. I think that's kind of where we ended up as we discussed it last week, or yeah, it was last week. And so I would anticipate having more robust discussions about that at the next meeting, but I would like the whole council to be here for that as well.
Kasha?
I can concur with that idea. I think we should probably move it forward. I think two of the people who had wanted to hear some of this information aren't present, and I think that at least they would be able to have an opportunity to review this information that was presented. The other question I have, and it's more for Patrick, who does our water and electric utility audit?
The Wagner, I believe. They're new.
So it isn't a similar firm?
No.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this, guys? Otherwise, we'll just move these both forward for a vote on December 18th. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. Okay. Next up, I have JT is here. Okay. Review and update of social media website policy. We've gone through this. I've lost track. We've
Several
had
times.
Several edits. And I think
each one better than the last, though.
Of course, yes. First off, congratulations on your new role at your.
Thank you.
On when I know they said you're leaving, and thank you for everything you've done for the city. While you're
thank you all for the opportunity. I appreciate that, Andy.
Yep.
So I have a good feeling that tonight is going to be the night that we finish this. And even if it's not, well, I'm finished with it. So good luck. So
how long were you working on that joke?
I had a lot of time sitting there. I was number 14 on the agenda tonight, but I'm not bitter about it. So all of our edits start on page 2 tonight of the social media policy. And I'll walk through them. Most of these were pretty minor tweaks, all things considered. So number 8, we just changed the language. We wanted to make sure that whatever blurb we had included on official pages mentioned that they are in fact official pages. So that language has been included. On number 9, there was an edit that I have a mea culpa here, that was just an oversight on my part, that I had let that specific use of Facebook sneak in, especially since earlier in that number you can see it's referring to all social media sites. The idea is it's not just applying to Facebook, that any social media site you want to post to, you have to get approval for. I'm going too fast. I want to just give the opportunity open to throw the brakes on if anybody has a problem with any of these edits so far. Not seeing any.
We'll
okay.
let you know.
All right. So then number 3, I think, is probably the point where we have discussion tonight. This is born out of a discussion that was had in October, I think, where it was brought up, I do believe by you, Alderman Clark, that perhaps we should designate exactly where advertising spending in for social media, where spending on social media should come from. The idea, possibly an advertising budget, that sort of thing. The council sort of could see it both ways, so I volunteered to write up some language just to see what it would look like on paper. Then at the last meeting that I was here for, Alderman Clark was not present, and so again the council was sort of split, and wanted to bring it back now for one last discussion. I will just make the same point that I did last time. I don't see the need for this rule, just because sure it gives, creates this is where that money has to come from, and if you haven't budgeted for it, then it creates a need on the departments to think through exactly where this money should come from. However, in practice, the city spends so little on advertising through social media. The Department of Public Works spent $36, and I think they may lead the pack this year in how much was spent on social media advertising. The Tourism Commission generally shoulders, if there is going to be a big Facebook buy, they generally shoulder the burden. And tourism is making an effort to sort of trying to be that one-stop shop for advertising dollars now. But with that, a good rule could be a good rule. I'll leave it up to the council to decide on whether or not we leave this in or take it out.
I'm comfortable with the language. I understand what you're saying as far as the spending levels that we're seeing right now, but we're not really creating the policy for right now.
Sure.
So I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
I just like to give staff the flexibility when possible. But point taken.
Well, I mean, I think the way it's worded does give the staff flexibility. I mean, the way it's worded now, it's the post should come from funds budgeted for marketing or advertising. I mean, pretty much every department has a marketing or advertising line in one way or the other, and if not, there are outlets like tourism to request that kind of money if it would become something that would generate heads and beds, they say. So I agree with Clark. I mean, I like this in there. I like how it's worded, and I don't really think it's restrictive. That's Regan.
I agree. Although I think what you said, I think in trying to make the point against it would be a point I would make for it, which is I want departments thinking about this ahead of time, and if they're not spending on it now, this might spur them to think of a really great way that they could spend to increase awareness in the city, which is our goal ultimately with the policy. So I think the language doesn't harm anything. I think it's good to have it in there as a placeholder. I don't mind keeping it there at all.
Then there it will stay. Page 3. The final edit is just on number 5 there, meeting and event streaming policy. There was the idea to include the word event there, that this should also apply for streaming of events and making that distinction between a meeting and an event. And then also under 5.0, number 1, any open city meeting, the idea being that we're not going to continue streaming once we go into closed session, and making sure that was spelled out.
I did have a question on this. So, number 3, any method used to stream a meeting should not allow for public comments by default, or should have the means to disable public comments. I just want to clarify that, or I want to know if we need to clarify, is this for comments while it's live or after we've uploaded it? I don't really think we've spelled that out in here, and I don't know if, I know now comments are allowed after things have been uploaded, and I just want to know if that's what we want in the policy, or you want to keep it where there's no comments. So I don't know what your thought on that was, or
my thought has always been that the word stream sort of by definition implies a live broadcast, and then once it's up as a recording, then it's a recording and it can be treated as a separate thing. But if council wants me to add the word live, I don't think that that's going to break any backs.
Yeah.
Right. My point being is that this, in my mind, applies only to live streaming, so that it bars commenting on live streams, but after the fact, people can go in and comment. And of course, their comments are then regulated under our comment policy.
I see. Yeah, and that's pretty much how it is right now. So, I mean, I think Vimeo, after things are uploaded, you can comment. I mean, anything that's posted on Facebook after the event, people can comment on, or YouTube, or whatever, or wherever we're putting that now. So I just wanted to see if anybody else had any comments on that, if they're okay with how that's set up, or if they wanted to make anything specific in the policy to address that. Jason?
No, I'm okay how it's set up. I think the live I didn't like it because I didn't want people at home to think that they were part of the meeting and they were live commenting when they should be here in the seats and talk. So that's why I'm glad we're not doing the live commenting.
Okay. Is comfortable with the changes in number 5? Okay.
That was the last change. Is there anything else on the social media policy that council would like to address?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay, 1, 2, 3 sold. All right, website administration policy. There were no changes made here, but would council like to make any? This has been locked in for many meetings now.
It has. I don't have any further changes. I think parting gift for JT would be to forward this to the regular meeting for a vote, so he doesn't have to think about it for the next 5 days, or however many days you have left. So
2.
Oh wow! All right. Is there going to be cake or a party or anything or what?
Not that I've heard of, unless Patrick is planning a surprise.
Ooh.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said it.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Anything else for JT on social media? You can move that, Patrick.
The party's going to happen after JT leaves.
Oh,
so.
gotcha. Party's on Monday. Okay. All right. We'll put it up. We'll put your invite up on streaming, and then you won't be able to comment if you can come though. There you go. All right. Anything else on that? Otherwise, we'll move that forward to the next regular meeting. All right. Thanks, JT.
Thank you very much,
Congratulations
Council.
again.
Appreciate it.
I think we'll take a quick dive into the number 15, just a quick overview on what Paul has provided. So number 15, continued discussion and review of slow-moving vehicles regulations. In the packet, Paul has put together a draft ordinance. Overall, I think it looked pretty good. Didn't have a lot of questions, but I'll let you go ahead and if you have any comments or.
If you don't have a lot of questions, I'm not going to ask you for a lot of questions. So basically what you have in front of you is a kind of a kitchen sink approach to the topic. We threw in as much as we thought the discussion was about at the last meeting. The one thing that we did confirm is that there is a 1 mile rule for having routes in order to get to golf courses. So one of the issues that this ordinance does is create a special area of the city where golf carts are allowed, and so it is not citywide applicability. So that's the one thing that that you'll have to pay attention to as this goes forward. And we tried to look at the map and pick out that part of the city that is in relative proximity to the 2 golf courses. And unfortunately, the 2 golf courses don't have their entrances right across the street from each other, because that would have been way too easy. But I think we've got the geographic area that's pretty close, and you might want to tweak that when you actually sit down and look at the actual map and the streets that we called out. Other than that, it's there is actually a state statute that governs this topic, so we incorporated as much of that in as we could to keep it as consistent as we can, and that's where you are right now.
Okay. In section 98-325 registration,
Yes.
under B you have registration. B you have a number listed and then a couple of numbers highlighted. Are those suggestions or what you've seen through other communities?
All of the above. They're all suggestions. It's not a mandatory thing to have a fee. I would assume that if you're going to have somebody go through this process of checking out the golf cart to make sure it complies with the rules of the road, so to speak, that you would want to have some kind of fee for it. So that's any number that you want to stick in there.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that that we would definitely need to put together a map, which I didn't see one in here. I guess
No, we
still in
did not
stages.
create a map, but we did call out, and now we did call out certain streets in the definition section on 98-321 has the definition of the golf cart route in paragraph 3 there. Kind of lays out the streets that are allowed.
Yeah, I read that, and then I couldn't, in my head, imagine where any of those streets were, other than Waterloo. So we have to. Yeah, we definitely need to get it on a map. And
We pulled up a map and kind of took a shot at it. So, and I don't know the little intricacies of the city either. So that's why it would be good for you guys to all take a look at it. And
Did you guys evaluate speed limits on the areas that you defined?
Excuse me, Mike?
Did you evaluate the speed limits in the area?
No, we did not. No, we were looking at a map, and that's all we had. We didn't have if it was 35, 30, or 25 in any of the particular streets.
It's sort of like 25 miles an hour.
Right.
Possible.
I think doesn't it say they can't go more than 20?
No. I'm
Or
saying
the-
that you would only allow in zones that are 25 miles per hour.
Gotcha.
35, so
Right. A golf cart by definition is not supposed to go more than 20 miles an hour. And then there's also certain city streets at 25 miles per hour where they are allowed. That's kind of and then there's also some 35 mile per hour streets where they are allowed also. So the speed limit is important, depending on what kind of street it is. The cart itself is not supposed to be able to exceed 20. I'm not sure how that's ever going to be figured out, as part of the registration process or anything like that, unless the,
Run them by the speed board.
unless the police department is telling, go speed, I'm going to clock you or something like
Yeah.
that. I'm not sure how that might work, but.
Yeah. Okay. Regan?
I think Kasha was first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kasha.
So, I guess the one thing I'm wondering in regards to this is, have we thought about, it looks like all of the burden of enforcing this obviously is going to end up going to the police department, but also all of the inspection process and everything like that. Are these fees then going to be steered to them to cover all that extra stuff for ordinance that's just going to pretty much impact, to be honest, the people who are in this area is everything in Avalon and right by Kestrel Ridge. Looks like that's all that's going to be able to even take advantage of this.
Right, well, where the, who you have doing the inspection and how you have the fees allocated is that, I think that's more of a Patrick question than a Paul question. But I certainly understand your point, and the permit process is something that I think I would envision either going through the clerk's office or, as far as the paperwork goes, or it is something that that you will just designate specifically to the police department because it involves inspecting a vehicle. There's inspecting a vehicle and there's getting a sticker. And where you want to fix the fee will be up to you.
Patrick?
Yeah. So if I get what you're asking is if the PD does the administration, does the money be funneled back to the
them for doing
PD? What we'd want to do is we'd set up a line item to measure the revenue that comes in, so we know, but it would be on the revenue side, which the revenue side then funds all of the expense side. So while it does, the amount we apply to the fee, whatever that might be, will help to assist with the effort that the PD is going to be putting in to inspect and whatnot. It'll go just on the revenue side. You can draw that in your mind, but it won't be like a direct, balance there.
I'm trying to think if there's any other services that we have where we have one agency inspect and then we, because I know we have, because like the everything else, like any other ordinance isn't enforced by the police department essentially, so they don't get any
Chicken
extra
licensing.
What's that?
You have chicken licensing.
Chicken licensing.
I don't know if there's been one chicken license.
There,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
You missed a few. Yeah, before you got on.
Wow.
It's winter
Oh,
now.
we'll have to find some now so you can take it, so you can be part of this.
Yes.
We'll have renewals coming up, so, right? We'll have renewals coming up.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we will.
Yeah, so Jason brought up a good point, just like a liquor license, all the other departments do an inspection, that money comes into the city line and it's not funneled back, so.
True.
I think it should be treated just like any other license.
Yeah, yeah. The effort there is accounted for in the amount we assess for the fee, but just the accounting and the way we set the budget up, it just goes into that revenue line.
Yeah, and we need to determine, what the correct fee amount should be, like what's the time that it takes for someone to look at a golf cart to make sure it hasn't been lifted and and a different engine put in it. That's governor. I mean, I don't know. And then the cost to get stickers, stickers made. I don't know what that is. So. Regan.
So just generally, I want to make sure. So we're creating the ordinance to allow for this activity that is, unless we have the ordinance, is not allowed. Is that the gist of it? And then to Kasha's point, this is only going to pertain to a certain segment of the city that can even take advantage of it. And in that segment, we think there's maybe one or two people who might. So I'm just going to reiterate what I said last time is I don't really know that we need this ordinance. It's a lot of effort. It's, for different departments to go through it. I haven't really been convinced that it's got widespread usefulness to the city as a whole, and it's a valuable use of maybe our resources and time to put it on the books. It's just another resource that we're going to have to make sure we update and continue to keep current. And we are currently struggling with that with the ordinances we do have on the books. So those are my comments. It might be a little bit late to kind of do anything about that, but in general, for those reasons, I'm not very supportive of the ordinance in particular. But as drafted, if we're going to have one, I think it's fairly thorough. So,
I think
Mike.
I'd like to address that point too, but I think it's an argument in favor of it as well, because if you don't have that many people really clamoring for it, how much effort really is it to allow these people to come out of the shadows and do this legally? And the heavy lifting has kind of been done. It's been written. I mean, it's a matter of licensing and processing. So I don't know. I'm in support of it only because I think it adds a feature to the community that people would like to take advantage of and use it a little bit more. So I'm for it.
Kasha?
I just seem to think that the people who could take advantage of this already have the golf cart or the golf courses right in their backyard and don't really need to have the ordinance if you look at the streets that are outlined and where they fall.
But they asked for it.
Drive out the back door. It's right there.
Well, I would argue that not everyone that would take advantage of this lives on the golf course. So, Jason.
Well, it's my district, I guess, and, in Patrick's old neighborhood, you have to drive on the road to get to a golf course. It's not in your backyard. Even me, I have to drive on the road. The golf course is actually across the street. So I can't just drive through my backyard and get to a golf course. So, and I have had a few citizens in my district ask for this just because their neighbor rides their golf cart. They can't because they don't want to break the law. And right now it's breaking the law to ride a golf cart.
I have two that aren't really in favor of it, two that are. I'm in favor of it. I think this be an add. Just agree with what Clark's saying. It's an added benefit to the city, and helps with to protect the citizen from not breaking a law that they probably didn't know existed. So we can get the word out, let them know this ordinance, is out there, and see if people take advantage of it. As Clark said, the work is done. We may have a few tweaks left with the map, and go from there. So that being said, I feel that we have consensus to move it forward. Well, actually, we will move it. When I say move it forward, I want to move it back again move it forward to the next CAL for further discussion to figure out where we're going to be at on maps and.
Right, you have two issues that need to be resolved by you, and one is the map, and the second is the fee.
Yeah.
And I do believe you have a mile from the entrance to the golf course. Now you have two different golf courses with two different entrances in two different places. So that'll be a little bit tricky as to how far you want to extend that. But that's something to keep in mind. And then you do have the 25-mile streets that Clark was indicating.
I guess I just have a question for you. Is that streets? You have to get on a street to get there, or is that as the crow flies?
Yeah, it's a really good, it says, regulate the operation of a golf cart to and from a golf course for a distance not to exceed 1 mile upon a street. Okay. So it's not, put your crows away.
Put those cats away. All right. All right, any other discussion on this? And it noted, we'll need to discuss the map and the fees. I think, being this was originally brought forward by Mayor Tome, he'd probably have some more things to say about this. So, golf doesn't start until hopefully April or late March, but crossing my finger, yeah, right, I wish. Well, not here. You can trailer your cart somewhere. So we'll move that to the next committee of the whole on the 18th for further discussion. Oh, that's it. Okay. So number 16, convene to closed session per state statute 19.85, sub 1, sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, performance evaluation data for any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the performance evaluation of the city administrator. We have another closed session item after that. There doesn't look like there's going to be any action taken tonight, so we will adjourn for the evening after that, so we will not be coming back on air. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Pat, if you could please take the roll call on that.
Clark? Hendrickson?
Aye.
Millar?
Aye.
Tylen?
Aye.
Traxler?
Aye.
Unanimous.
All right, we're now in closed session. Thanks for tuning in tonight, and hope to see everybody at the holiday train on December 7th at 9 o'clock. I believe it's going to be here. Plenty of stuff to do around town before then. So thank you.